Another day of extreme heat and the 7th day in a row of a flex alert. We have your first microclimate forecast.
Another hot day has energy experts concerned about blackouts. We'll take a closer look at the problem.
What we're learning about a San Diego woman killed in a Seattle plane crash.
A new bill soon to be signed into law statewide that will eliminate minimum parking requirements for new developments near public transit.
Plus, why California is extending the life of its last nuclear power plant.
And motivation comes in all forms. The 80-year-old showing others anything's possible.
And San Diego Mayor Gloria joins us live in studio tonight to answer your questions. CBS 8 News live at 6 starts now. A warning to prepare for rolling power outages tonight to ease the strain on our power grid. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
And I'm Jesse Pagan. State grid operators say we're not cutting back enough on power and demand could hit an all-time high tonight. Today is day 7 of a flex alert and we have soaring temperatures.
Our energy emergency alert is now at a level 2. You may have just received an alert on your phone. I know I did, to conserve energy tonight. If the alert climbs to level 3, that is the highest level, and then rotating power outages will likely begin.
We've got team coverage on all of this, but first let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis here early with a first look at our current conditions. Carlene?
Currently, we are still feeling the heat out there. So taking a look at temperatures, you got the 90s going strong for Escondido, the same for Poway at 96 degrees. You're also talking about 93 degrees for El Cajon. You got those 70s and 80s right along the coast, but more 80s than anything else. 80 degrees for downtown, also talking about 83 degrees for Encinitas. That's the same current temperature for Oceanside, and we're still holding on to the heat over the next few days. Once again, this was supposed to expire tomorrow, but now you're talking about excessive heat warning for the mountains and the desert all the way until about Thursday night, and then west of the mountains, that's going to be for about Friday when it will expire, and that's about 8 p.m. on Friday. Here's why. Even more heat is expected in our forecast. You're looking at some overnight lows that are going to be in the upper 70s as well as the low 80s. So uncomfortable as we get into the nighttime hours. And then by the afternoon hours, we're looking at more heat. So 92 degrees looks to be the coastal high by Friday. You're noticing temperatures are dropping off as we go into the weekend. Before we get to that point, we got to get through the heat. More triple digits in store for daytime highs inland by tomorrow. We'll go ahead and take a look at just how long it's sticking around coming up.
All right, Carlene, thanks. Wildfires remain a big concern tonight. Up in Riverside County, 2 people are dead from the Fairview fire burning in Hemet. 1 other person is in the hospital tonight with serious burns. This fire started yesterday afternoon and has quickly burned 4,000 acres and burning at least 7 buildings. Right now, it's only 5% contained. Some 1,500 homes have been evacuated. Hundreds of homes are still in harm's way. But there is some good news on another fire that also broke out yesterday. Right now, the Caesar fire in Ramona is fully contained. This one also started yesterday afternoon, but fire crews stopped the forward spread within about 2 hours, and that fire ended up burning only about 50 acres. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Tonight, the U.S. Coast Guard has called off the search for victims of a plane crash in Washington state. The float plane went down just north of Seattle Sunday with 10 people on board, including a woman from San Diego. CBS 8's Rocio de la Fe spent the day learning more about the victims and the crash.
A total of 9 adults and 1 child were on the plane when it went down in a bay near Seattle. We now know the identities of all victims on board, including that of a successful businesswoman here in San Diego.
After hours of extensive search, authorities in Washington state suspended the search for passengers of a seaplane that went down near Whidbey Island.
At this time, just a sheen. It is completely under the water.
10 people were on board the float plane, including 60-year-old Joanne Mara from San Diego. Mara, a successful business owner of over 30 years, co-owned Pacific Events, an event production, design, and rental company in San Diego. In a statement from her company, it states Mara was to celebrate a wedding anniversary with her husband and adds that Joanne was passionate about people, their stories, and their dreams. Her family says Mara was visiting other family members in Seattle at the time of the crash. In a statement, she's described as someone everyone gravitated towards and that she was the life of any party and the soul of her family. The statement goes on to say, quote, "She was the best mom, wife, sister, and friend. Our hearts are shattered, not just for our family's loss, but for the loss we know other families are feeling right now." Mara leaves behind 3 children and her husband of over 30 years.
That's why I wanted
CBS 8 News spoke to Joanne in 2002 when she began genetic testing for breast cancer after losing 2 sisters to the disease. employees.
When you see somebody close to you that you love die and the kids that they leave behind, it's very sad.
The plane she was on took off from Friday Harbor and was just 18 minutes into its nearly 1-hour flight to Renton, Washington, when it crashed into Mutiny Bay. The Coast Guard says no distress calls were made.
Reports are that the aircraft dropped suddenly at a fair amount of speed and hit the water.
Among those on board, a child, a pregnant woman, and a Spokane civil rights activist. The body of one woman was found following the crash, but the remaining 9 other people on board are still missing and believed to have died.
My heart goes out to the families. That's just really, really hard to lose people suddenly like that.
Investigators are now focusing on what caused the plane to go down. The NTSB is taking over the investigation. Rocio de la Fe, CBS 8.
New state legislation is aiming to do away with minimum parking requirements for developers who build around public transit areas. CBS 8's Brian White talked with the co-author of the bill and has the details on who this will impact.
We want to get people out of their cars. We want to incentivize alternative modes of transportation.
Assembly Bill 2097 was just approved by the California State Legislature last week. If signed into law, it would essentially ban mandatory parking space requirements for residential or commercial buildings within a half mile of public transit. State Senator Anthony Portantino is co-author.
We want to make sure that we respect a movement towards an alternative way of getting to work, which is on a bicycle, which is on mass transit.
By not requiring parking spaces, which can cost builders between $40,000 and $100,000 per space, the bill aims to lower construction costs for new housing. And Senator Portantino thinks that will result in more affordable rent prices, too.
If you eliminate parking, the cost of construction will be less, therefore the rents will be less.
The city of San Diego already lifted parking requirements over 3 years ago for multifamily residential construction in what are called transit priority areas, as shown in pink here on the map. The new Assembly bill is a similar effort statewide to increase density around public transit.
If there's no parking, you're going to attract people who don't have cars. You're going to attract people who bike to work, who walk to work, who use mass transit.
Some people I spoke with who live in Claremont disagree. They say people aren't going to give up their cars and instead they'll just park them on the street.
Obviously, it's not enough because the streets are full. So why wouldn't that happen again with the new construction?
They're still going to be bringing cars. People are wanting to be very independent. They don't want to depend on public transportation.
Others, like William Radigan with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, are all for doing away with mandatory parking.
This bill would allow me to live somewhere where there's no parking provided. I don't need parking, and I can now pay a cheaper rent than I'd have to otherwise.
Senator Portantino says that while parking spaces may not be required near public transit, it doesn't mean builders will always choose to have zero parking in these areas.
If the developer wants to have some parking spaces, they're going to have the flexibility to do it. But I think first and foremost, you're going to be attracting people who are fine with not having a parking in that building.
Now, this bill is currently sitting on Governor Newsom's desk, and he is expected to sign it. I'm Brian White for CBS 8.
All right, Brian, thank you. Now, September is Rail Safety Month, and officials say we need to keep that in mind. Last year, California saw 242 accidents happen with people trespassing on train tracks, the most of any state. 141 of those people died in those. Rail officials say we can help stop them by paying closer attention to signs and just using designated crossings. UC San Diego's Pepper Canyon West Living and Learning neighborhood is now officially under construction. Once built, the area will house more than 1,300 transfer and undergrad students in their 3rd and 4th years. The project is part of the university's plan to guarantee affordable housing for all 4 years as rent prices keep going up for everyone. The neighborhood will be ready in fall 2024. Still ahead tonight, why California will keep its last nuclear power plant in operation.
Also up next, San Diego Mayor Gloria joins us live here in studio, live for the first time since the pandemic, to answer your questions right after the break.